I signed up for her Unlock Your Jaw class, and I also was drawn to it because I had some sort of kind of carpal tunnel pain in my arm because I play clarinet. So I was just looking kind of to try something and see what this Feldenkrais was all about. And that's kind of how it started.
So how long has it been that you've been doing it?
So I guess I probably started like in August, and that's how many months now?
9 months or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Cool.
Doing it at least once a week, and then maybe several months into it, adding the second class on Thursday.
So have you tried doing anything else like before for your carpal tunnel?
Not really. Not really. I couldn't really find anything that I could follow, or that with the amount of time I've been into it was at all helpful. I was just really discouraged, actually. I'd spoken to other musicians, and they were kind of telling me that I think I tried a brace at one point, and then some other professional people who were just like, this just happens, you just have to take 6 months off and hope you heal, or this is just a career injury and now you're done. So I actually kind of stopped playing in part because I was experiencing so much pain that I was just like, well.
So have you been playing more?
I have been. I've been playing a lot more now. Actually, I play every day, and
that's awesome.
yeah, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful.
Cool. And then you started doing the authentic movement classes soon after?
Actually, no. I only started those about maybe a month and a half ago.
Okay.
And I had experienced so much amazing improvement and surprises with the Feldenkrais that I wanted to see what authentic movement was about.
Yeah.
And kind of came into it having no idea. But that's just been absolutely amazing. And I feel like with the Feldenkrais, I didn't mention this, but within like a month of doing the lessons with Tiffany, my arm just didn't hurt anymore. And we had never done any arm exercises, but just I had a new approach to playing, which was just to kind of be relaxed. And I think my body just kind of reorganized itself. So that I had no pain. And then the authentic movement classes, I started approaching my practicing kind of this with the same mindset as the authentic movement, which is to just kind of get quiet and see what comes up. And that has really affected my playing now. So it's kind of changed my whole practice, literally my practice.
Yeah.
More like meditation now that things come from. So.
Yeah. I'm interested in like how Feldenkrais and authentic movement, like how they work together, because I think they do. What's been your experience?
Wow. Well, I know in the authentic movement classes, I'm certainly doing a lot of things that I feel are Feldenkrais influenced, just because I'm kind of exploring my body in ways that I wouldn't have even known to explore them before. I have more movements to choose from. I think if I had come here without Feldenkrais, I wouldn't be as in touch with my body in the first place to even get quiet and listen to it for something to come forth, physically. And also, I would just have this very limited movements that, I think I would have to offer. So if nothing else, even if I'm not doing, Feldenkrais-inspired movements, I feel like free to see what new things my body can do.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely benefited from doing the Feldenkrais first. And I agree with you. I think they totally go together.
Yeah. So I'm also interested in how you've changed when you first started to now, and what you've noticed.
That is a lot.
Yeah, because there's a lot of aspects to it. Like maybe we could start with there's patterns, habits that you've had.
Wow. Well, after the very first class, which was an Unlock Your Jaw, all these directions to release tension wherever you feel it. The idea of scanning your body for tension and letting it go is completely new. So one thing that I still do to this day, which I started right after that first class, was noticing when my face was tight and clenched. Yeah. So that is the one habit that literally I'll be driving and I'm thinking, oh, relax your face. Yeah. So that's one thing. And I think other habits, maybe not so much physical habits, but just habits of learning and my mental and emotional habits have changed. And I'm not even sure I know how, but things are just, because I'm kind of in the process, I haven't been doing it too long. I'm still in this discovery of what is all this, what is this, and what's happening.
And it's hard to articulate.
Yeah. Which is one thing that's so cool about Feldenkrais, because I can't articulate it all the time. It's a process that totally, you know, it goes right past my verbal, intellectual part of myself, which was it was like steroided up.
Mm-hmm.
I needed something that, you know, left that out and worked with the rest of me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about, have you noticed any changes at work?
Changes at work.
Or in like your relationships with people?
I am just, well, my life has improved a lot, and I feel like I'm a lot more mindful, and I'm not as quick to react to things. I think physically and emotionally and mentally, I can stay calmer. There's more of a space between when something happens and when I just habitually react. So yeah, my work life has changed a lot. I'm probably much more pleasant to be around.
What about like, I've noticed for me, like I sleep better.
Wow. Well, I can sleep on my side, which I couldn't before.
Mm-hmm.
Like 10 years ago, suddenly somehow I couldn't sleep on my side, and I always thought, what was that all about, you know? And then we did some lesson on shoulders, and I'm like, oh, good. It's not like I am just, as I get older, parts of my body just stop working correctly, you know? Which frankly didn't make any sense, because I'm not old enough yet for things to not work, you know?
Yeah.
And then these classes kind of unlock them. So I sleep better because I can actually sleep in more positions and get comfortable.
Yeah, great. What about with like changes in your creativity or expression?
Oh my gosh, when I came here, I was afraid to pick up a pencil and draw, and I was, you know, I was afraid to pretty much play my instrument. I'm trying to get into more of an improv, you know, place. I was very happy to play something that was, you know, notes on a page, but I wasn't sure where that creative spark would come from. Frankly, I didn't know intellectually where it came from, so I didn't know where was it going to come from? If I couldn't tell you, then where would it come from? And just the Feldenkrais classes, first of all, showed me that just because you can't talk about it doesn't mean it, you know, a process in your body doesn't exist, which is huge. I mean, I had read books on mindfulness and everything else, and there was no way to know whether it was, you know, real or not until I had the first Feldenkrais class and experienced it myself, that there's something going on, and there's an intelligence that's not just the part of me that talks. So, so the Feldenkrais definitely opened that up, and then the authentic movement just really pushed it along. That it's totally changed my creativity. Yeah.
So, where do you think it comes from?
That's a really good question. Where do I think it comes from? Well, before I had taken these classes, I thought my entire self was talking to you right now, and there just wasn't anything else. There wasn't a body, for one thing. I don't know. My emotions were like over there somewhere. No, this had nothing to do with anything. And I think after my first class with Tiffany, I was like, oh, all of this stuff that's happening to me is happening in here. Yeah. Where else would it be? That's so obvious. Why did it take so long to realize that? And all I can say is that I don't know, but I feel like the majority of me now is something I can't talk about and I can't point to. And before I was quite sure I could. It's talking to you right now. This is me. Yeah. And now I'm like, oh, this is just maybe a very small percentage of me. This is probably producing something, you know, like something I draw on a page, you know. Me is like, and I have no idea what it is yet, but cool. I'll probably never know.
How do you typically feel after a lesson versus before?
Wow. Well, in the beginning, it was night and day. Like I actually, if there was a time when there was no Feldenkrais class that week, I had a bad week. I was addicted to it because I felt so much, I felt less physically, I felt less stressed, but I felt all of my anxiety would just be gone, you know? And it was interesting because I could track how many hours it would last, you know? Usually it was very intense right after the class, you know, I would leave with a smile on my face, I would feel like a different person. I feel like the habitual mindsets that I had thought I thought were myself were just like I guess Feldenkrais talks about like physical, you know, habitual patterns of tension, and I feel like I found mental patterns of tension, and that after these classes they also get loosened. Yeah. I don't know how, but yeah. they seem to. So afterwards, I feel like a different person afterwards. Yeah. A happy, smiling. I look in the mirror. I think I look like a different person. My husband thinks I I do. He couldn't recognize me after my first class. I was getting out of my car and he's like, "That's her car? That looks like her from the back, but she doesn't walk like that."
That's so interesting.
Yeah, especially, I was trying really hard previously to walk like I thought a confident person with good posture walked.
Mm-hmm.
So then to find out that all of that effort was in vain, plus it was a lot of energy taking up, like, oh, okay. I felt like something like this always must exist, that what I was looking for was natural and not that hard, but with all of my searching and efforting, I hadn't found it until this came along, so that was awesome.
Yeah. So you now, if you don't go to a class like every week, is it the same?
You know, I haven't had to have that happen.
Oh, okay.
And I've added an extra one.
Yeah.
So, there was one week where I was sick and I had a bad weekend. By the end of the week, I had a bad weekend, and my husband said it's probably because you didn't go to your class. In fact, he didn't say probably. He said it's because you didn't have your class.
Mm.
So I think so.
Mm.
But I also think the effect lasts longer too. Like in the beginning, it was my life was so like and then the difference after the Feldenkrais class was like wow. And now I think so much of that has been incorporated into my life. I'm so much more relaxed. I think so much healthier, that the class is not as
like you can access that
throughout. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
So now I just want more classes to go farther and faster.
So how would you describe Feldenkrais to someone who doesn't know what it is?
Well, I just did that to a friend who is visiting me, and what do I say? I think I emphasize the fact that it's a new way of learning more than anything else, and I'm someone who really lives in my head, so just about everything that I learn with Feldenkrais, then I end up, like for example, getting rid of habitual patterns of tension in your body, and then thinking, oh well, and I can get rid of habitual patterns of thought, that I kind of, everything turns into some way to think better and feel better for me. And I think I say that there's this really surprising thing that you can lay on the floor for an hour and be given these cues, these little subtle directions that you have no idea what they're doing. You're not even sure you're doing them right, but somehow by just paying attention and not trying to accomplish something, but just giving your body the chance to be felt while it does something, your brain is able to reorganize itself in a way to do the task. So that's kind of what I tell them. That your brain and your body are so much more intelligent than you might give them credit for, and if you just get quiet and don't try and observe them, whether it's your body or your thoughts or whatever, that it will rewire itself. So that's
helpful for me.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you. Have you recommended this to like anyone?
Everybody. Yeah. I've had a long discussion with this friend who I think is the only person I know who's in their head more than I am. He went, you should try this. It'd be really good for you.
Yeah. Has he tried it?
Well, he may.
Yeah.
He may. He's never heard of it before, so this is all new to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Do you remember any particular classes that like stood out to you?
Wow.
For any reason?
I remember there were individual classes that, for whatever reason, afterwards something was just so different. Like a body part was just freed, or whatever. But the class I think most recently was one where we were doing doing things like the equivalent of this kind of thing, moving like things in opposite each other, and it actually seemed like different from some of the other Feldenkrais classes. But by the end of it, I actually went home and I played my clarinet like crazy. It was like I was in another place, and I felt like the space between my ears was bigger. And I was listening to jazz in the car, and it was the kind of thing that normally, the particular kind of jazz that normally I'm like, oh, whatever, this is not that interesting. But it was like, the way the sounds hit me was like, whoa, what, oh my gosh. I was just like being in an altered state just from, I guess there was a lot of rewiring going on, by the time that class was over, I could move things in opposite that couldn't move before.
Yeah.
So something really cool was happening.
That's so cool.
Oh, and one more also. The class we did recently where you were moving your knee. Again, it was one of these things where you think you can only move your body one way. You think it's just physically that's the way you're built. And then by the end of the class, you're like, oh, you mean I can move it both? I can move that joint in one of two directions. And that like actually was kind of life changing, because I'm thinking, oh, I bet there are other things in my life that I can decouple. You know, like maybe I'm thinking, maybe I'm having like, maybe just because I think a thought doesn't mean I have to do a certain action. You know, maybe, you know, so that, again, kind of abstracting out. Just because I think, you know, I think a thought, can I just notice the thought and then not act on it? Just because I think it, you know, I was pretty sure it was physically impossible for me to, you know, move my knee a certain way when I was doing something with my foot, but it wasn't if I just watched and, you know, so, and I found that was true. I could kind of decouple my thoughts from my actions and my thoughts from my emotions, working on the latter one right now. Yeah.
Would you say something about Tiffany, a practitioner?
Oh wow, she's just amazing, and I tried to research everyone in the area as thoroughly as I could, you know, through the internet, and her reviews were amazing, and I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I don't think I would have had this same experience. I'm sure I wouldn't have without Tiffany, because she's just so, the way she conducts like the group classes, you know, she's not like reading from something, she's like there with you, you know, and the offerings that she gives, you know, the readings, and sometimes like she'll bring in a skeleton and stuff, and it's just this really holistic experience as opposed to just lay on a mat, here are some things. And I'm sure it could be, you know, taught like that. And the authentic movement classes are, I didn't believe in the phrase like a safe environment. I was like, what is that? What is that even? A safe environment, okay. But I know what that is now. And it's the environment that Tiffany creates. I was pretty scared, you know, for the authentic movement things in the beginning. I was like, I don't know what this is, I don't know who these people are, I don't know what I'm doing. And then by the end, I was just, you know, I felt safe enough to go places, you know, in front of other people that I was, you know, I don't know that I would have gone there by myself. You know, so she's just amazing and knowledgeable, and it would have been worth moving here just to have met her, and in fact I tell her that, to have this experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm also interested in this like idea of a safe environment, and how do you think a person creates a safe environment?
Wow. I for one thing, even when people sometimes have that, there's no judgment. You just get this feeling from Tiffany that there's just no judgment, and I think you probably have to authentically be that person, or else, you know, we're animals, we pick it up, you know, body language or whatever. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, that she authentically is just she is the safe environment. It probably like radiates from her, and whenever anyone, you know, has like I'm feeling something, you know, I'm feeling vulnerable or scared or whatever, her response is always just the right thing. You know, she's just a really awesome person. And then also the other thing I think the safe environment is that the way she structures the classes, and I think it's really thoughtful, and it just kind of eases you in some of the pre-exercises and the warm-ups and the authentic movement, I think are just really wonderfully chosen. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, I think I covered everything. I think, yeah. Come see me in 6 months, and it'll be a whole new set of awesome things. I'm just really grateful. It's been wonderful.